Thank you all for being here. This is a way for us to reset and kick off again, highlighting the importance of cybersecurity, both for this office and throughout the county. So this is something we've had significant conversations about at the county level, and we thought it'd be a great idea just to do a training at this point to try and sensitize folks to the kinds of issues that we are all facing, and it's critically important. So I appreciate everybody taking time out of the busy schedules. With that, I'm just going to turn it over to Charles to introduce our guest speakers.
Good afternoon. Did we have enough pizza? I'm going to yell. Thanks everyone for being here. As Pete said, the issue and topic of cybersecurity has really been on our plates for quite some time, and certainly a very big issue, as you will learn, for the county as a whole. We've been engaged in a number of conversations with folks out of our business innovation and technology group with the county, having a lot of discussions about the problems of cybersecurity, what it means to county systems and data, more particularly as it relates to the data in our systems. Should there be a breach or an event that's concerning, and we're going to be rolling out at the end of this meeting kind of steps going forward to make sure that we're all in tune with the issues and what we need to do in order to protect ourselves, protect our coworkers, and protect the county. And with that, I just want to introduce some folks that came down from the county. They'll make some additional introductions. But from our Business Innovation and Technology Group, we have Rebecca Haskell, who's Chief Officer. We have Jill Frazier here, of course. And is it Adam Corbett? Andy. I call him Adam. He doesn't mind. Now I know why none of my emails have gone through. I get responses from Russia when I email Adam, but that explains an awful lot. Of course, we have our friends with the FBI and CBI as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. So we are here to talk about why cybersecurity is important. We're going to go through just a quick introduction. Please ask us questions as you have them. We're going to have Mike Mercer, who's the Chief Security Officer for the FBI, come up here and do a presentation and talk. And then we're going to have Alyssa Watsman, who's a partner at Lewis Bois, which is a legal firm that Jeffco is working on cybersecurity with. So she'll talk to us, and then we'll wrap up and talk about what all is going to happen with you guys. So we're here because phishing has increased at the county. We've had 2 big attacks and many small attacks. The 2 big attacks were in the end of May and about a month ago. And so we're getting hit more and more often, and it only takes one person clicking for us to be compromised. So what we're here to talk about is how you can look out for those phishing emails. So far, the people that fell for it have just put in their credentials, just clicked on the link. We don't know if they've all put in their credentials. One person did, and then she got a phone call asking her for her social security number and her birthday, saying that there was a car that was registered in her name that had cocaine in it that was found at the Mexican border, I think. And that her social security number had been suspended. And she gave them her social security number and her birthday. So this doesn't just affect the county, because when you enter your credentials, it could be ransomware, and that could encrypt our data, and we could be down as a group for a week, a month, maybe more. But it also affects you personally. So it's not just happening at the county, it's happening at home as well. And we've got some resources for you. So this resource is our, on jeffco.us, it is our cybersecurity page that is available to employees and citizens. And it has information about what's happening recently, how to report a cybersecurity, you might have to use that. How to report a cybersecurity incident, and some things to do. Like, what about kids and mobile devices? How do you make sure that they are okay? Okay. So that's our jeffco.us page. We also have a page internally on the Gen that talks about cybersecurity. It has links to news articles and links to our cybersecurity training. So you will get cybersecurity training, and if you don't want to click on that link, you don't feel confident in that, you always go to this page and go to it from there. So,
Excuse me, in the back here, you're going in and out on the microphone. Can you move it up? I think if you move it up, it'll be better.
okay, is that better?
No?
Sorry.
Just hold it up, I don't.
Hold it up? Okay. I'll hold it up, is that better? No?
Why don't we use the handheld? I know it's cumbersome, but
Okay.
Douglas, can you get that set up for us? Thank you, sir.
We'll take a quick commercial break. Okay, so one of the things that we talk about on our Gen page is how we're all connected. And you can see, let me move it up a little bit, you can see that we have an analogy of a house. And Charles told me to talk about, or that it makes him think of a burglar in the house, right? When somebody tries to break into the house, since we're all interconnected, anybody who lets them into the house can attack everybody, right? So all it takes is one employee putting in their credentials, and they have access to our network. So if you're an admin, if you're in health, if you're in the DA, we're all on the same network. We're all sharing a network, and we have access to each other. If you're at the library, they have a different network, but they still can come in to the county, and the same with the sheriff. So that just kind of shows how we're all interconnected, and what any one of us does puts the others at risk. So what I want you to think about while you're hearing from the guest speakers that we have is why you should care, what your responsibilities are, and what changes you can expect. So at the end of this whole thing, I'm going to ask you what those are, and hopefully you'll have some answers for us. There's just one other thing I want to talk about that is recent. On last Friday, the city of Robstown, which is the DA, Nueces County DA in Texas, was hacked and ransomed, and it was the police department. The data that was encrypted hit the DA as well. And they recovered, as of Monday, 95% of the data. This says there may be cases where information is still encrypted and lost. Over 22 law enforcement agencies also were infected with the virus, and they haven't been able to de-encrypt all of the data yet. So the data was characterized as evidence, photos, videos, and reports related to pending investigations. So I just want you to know, it's not just Jeffco that's under more and more phishing attacks. It's happening all over the United States, it's happening all over the world. But we have to react, and we have to be on top of it. So we do everything we can from a technology perspective to protect the county, and we will be talking about a new way of reporting phishing that we'll be rolling out soon. But really, it's up to each individual to be aware and be suspicious, which I think probably you guys are good at. Okay, Jill, did you want to add anything? Jill is our Chief Information Security Officer.
So the only thing I wanted to add is to append to the story that Rebecca was just telling you about the district attorney in Texas. That the attack happened to the Robstown police on the 4th of September, but there was about a week and a half where they were unsure if the data was accessed or modified or compromised. So there was some period of time where district attorney folks were unsure whether or not they were going to be able to use that evidence. So the message for you guys in that is that if we were to experience any type of incident across the county, it takes some period of time to do an investigation, determine what happened, to determine if the data is still safe and usable. And if it is, then that's great, you can get back into action, but that's going to take some period of time, which what we're seeing typically is weeks, a few stories about months. And if that data is not safe, if it has been altered and it has been changed, then that might impact your ability to prosecute a case. So just something for you guys to put in your pocket to answer Rebecca's question at the end about why you might care. So at this point, I'd like to introduce our folks. You guys care
I can go, that's fine.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce Alyssa Watson. The county does carry cyber insurance, and we spent a good amount of time evaluating an outside counsel to provide us with cybersecurity guidance. And Alyssa is from that law firm and is here to share some information with you all today.
I'm pretty loud. If I just talk like this, can everybody in the back hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I forgot it? Yeah. So you need to use this? Yeah. Okay.
Get a fresh battery in this, that's probably loud, I'll be right back.
I can talk loud.
So thanks, folks, for taking a few minutes to listen to me talk this afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, my name is Alyssa. I'm a partner at Lewis Brisbois, which is a 1,400-person law firm. The office that we have is in Denver in the Wells Fargo building. There are about 40 of us there. I am a member of the data privacy and cybersecurity team. There are 25 of us on this team spread nationwide, coast to coast in various different offices, working with clients of all sizes, mom and pop shop manufacturing companies and title companies to Fortune 500 companies, municipalities, universities, et cetera, et cetera. Every day we are handling data security incidents. Our team will handle somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 incidents this calendar year. And we are seeing a spike in government entities and municipalities getting hit. And the information that I'm about to share with you is informed by that experience. So where I wanted to start is just to share a little bit of information about the trends that we're seeing to sort of drive home the point that nobody is immune, no organization of any size or any type is immune from this. Literally, companies and organizations like yours are getting attacked or at least attempts to get into your system every single day. So I'll walk through the trends in data security. Because we have a bunch of lawyers in here, I will touch briefly on the legal landscape. And then I'll provide a slide that will provide you with information about a couple of resources that we have available publicly. And then I'll hang around for a bit to answer any questions after our friends from the FBI give a little bit more information. So with that, there are 3 buckets of attack vectors that we are seeing on a daily basis. That is social engineering, encryption attacks, and then broader system intrusions. Social engineering is what you guys have experienced. It is phishing attacks. A couple of things. Social engineering attacks are generally targeted at harvesting credentials. So they are trying to get more broadly into your Office 365 system. They look very sophisticated. So they look like a Dropbox invitation, or they look like an attachment from somebody that you're expecting to get an attachment from because maybe somebody's in their system and watching the email traffic. They're looking for you to enter your username and password so that they can get into your system more widely, so that they can collect information and ultimately monetize their attack. If you use your same password at work that you use for other types of accounts, that's also a vector of attack. They are collecting information from those other accounts and then applying it to work. You all probably have LinkedIn profiles, so it's not hard to figure out where you work. And they can probably grab a Jefferson County email address from somewhere on the web and figure out that it's first name dot last name or whatever that is. There's actually a website that you can use to figure out if your email addresses have been compromised with the password, which I'll provide at the end so that everybody doesn't pick up their phone and do that right now. The other thing I want to mention is that most of these attacks are coming in the form of spear phishing. So what that means is they're educated. So it looks like an email from your DA or an email from your boss that says, "Dear Susie, are you in the office? I need this information immediately." It looks educated. Maybe your business partner's name is Jonathan and he goes by John J-O-N and they use John J-O-N and it looks like his signature block. The reason is that they're probably somewhere in your system. And the reality is everybody wants to be really helpful and they want to respond really quickly. And so what I would say is slow down for a second. Think about whether the individual sending you that information or that request would normally be sending you that request. And if you're not sure, pick up the phone. Nobody will be upset if you pick up the phone and just double check that what you're doing is in response to a legitimate request. Why are the attackers doing this? To make money. So a couple of things. Number one, your accounts are full of sensitive information, whether that is PII as we traditionally think of it, so personally identifiable information, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, or that is case information that maybe could be used to harm the outcome of a case or inform the other side in terms of decision making. So they're selling sensitive data on the dark web. Fraudulent wire transfers, they're trying to step in and direct money from being sent from point A to point B to point C over here, some account that they have control over. Direct deposit redirect, so they are trying to redirect your paychecks and use your credentials either to make that request to somebody in HR who has the ability to make that change, or to get your credentials and then use your credentials to log into your payroll platform. And then the last is W-2 image exploits. And this is really focused on folks who have access to everybody's W-2s, so HR, they basically take everybody's W-2s and then rapid fire them to collect the tax refund at the end of the year. Main ways to prevent this, aside from two-factor authentication, which I know you folks are working on, employee training. You cannot be careful enough. Double checking to make sure that the email address that appears like it's from Mike Smith is actually Mike Smith's email address. Making sure that the one in the email address is not actually a capital I. Making sure that everything looks correct, that they're speaking properly and that the signature blocks are right. And at the end of the day, if something feels weird, trust your gut and pick up the phone. Second bucket of attacks is encryption attacks. We are unfortunately seeing these more and more with respect to municipalities and government entities. I don't know if any of you have seen the news, but there are a number of different school districts and counties in the state of Texas that were just hit by a ransomware attack called Soda-Nikibi, and I don't make up the names, so I don't know how to spell that or where it came from. The FBI guys can probably tell us that. But the ransom demands are increasing, and they are becoming more and more serious. When you are hit with ransomware, not across the board, but for the most part, there is not a way to break that encryption. So you have two options, three options, I guess. You're either not recovering the data, you are recovering from backup, or you are paying the ransom in order to get the encryption key to recover that data. If you have data in a place that is encrypted and it is not backed up, like I understand from Jill, your individual workstations, I think, are not backed up. So if you're saving data locally and for some reason you're hit by an encryption attack, that data is gone, unless the county makes the decision to pay for it. So make sure that you're saving data in places that are backed up and make sure that you're keeping an eye out for this. The other thing is that attackers are spending more and more time in systems to gather information to inform their ransom demands and inform their communication process. So it used to be that companies would be impacted by ransomware and we could say, I'm a mom and pop shop manufacturing facility, I don't have the money to pay. Now we're seeing attackers go in and say, yes you do, and I know you do because here's your insurance policy. So they are spending a lot of time in the system to make sure that at the end of the day, they get paid. This is coming in through email, this is coming in through open RDP ports, which is a technical thing that I won't get into. And there's very little that can be done about it except for employee training. So again, making sure that you are careful about the links that you click on. That is the largest vulnerability with respect to ransomware. The last thing that I'll talk about is larger network intrusions. So we are still seeing attacks on payment card data, both at point of sale systems and e-commerce site attacks. We are seeing malicious network use. So botnet essentially means that that a malicious hacker is coming in, harvesting the power of your network to do something else. So to attack somebody else's system or to install crypto mining software such that your system will be overloaded and it will shut down. We've also seen them accomplish attacks on other organizations or other municipalities and take the sensitive information that they have harvested from those attacks and park it on your system because they figure nobody's ever going to see this. And then all of a sudden, if you have something happen, you'll wonder why there's somebody's birth certificate or passport number or social security cards in your system. And the last piece is intellectual property theft, and more relevant to you, sensitive information relating to the work that you're doing every day. Obviously, in the DA's office, you're handling a lot of information about a lot of different individuals and organizations, and that is all valuable on the dark web. This is just a slide that I won't talk through all the way, but it's a variety of the ways of making money with respect to all of these attacks that are going on. So there's essentially a Craigslist for bad guys, the dark web, and they are doing a whole bunch of different things in order to sell data, in order to make their attacks more successful. One that I think is interesting is the antivirus checking service. So they basically develop malware or ransomware and run it through 45 of the industry-leading antivirus programs. And if that malware doesn't get picked up by any of those antivirus programs, they can be pretty sure that as they start to deploy it to victims, that it will be successful. So they're working together either individually or in syndicates, and they're communicating, and there's a whole weird dark world out there for us all to be afraid of. Lessons learned from all of this. Number one, you are a target. You have sensitive information, you have employee information, you have case information, you are being targeted. And if you don't see it, you're not looking hard enough. This is unfortunately not if, it is when. And so what we focus on is making sure that everything is in place to let it not happen to you. You are going to be attacked and you can't, or attempts to get into your system, you can't stop that, but you certainly can do some things to make sure that those attacks are not successful. Frequency, it's happening literally every day. There are computers that are out there scanning the internet for vulnerabilities and trying weak passwords to get into things. Sophistication, they are doing their diligence. They're trying to make as much money as they can, as quickly as they can, and they are being increasingly successful. Any questions about any of that before I move on? Okay. I wanted to quickly touch on the legal landscape here, which is shifting very quickly. So regulators have budgets funded by assessments. So the attorney generals are becoming increasingly active in this space, both because there are monetary fines and penalties, and also because they are increasingly concerned about the information that is stored within various environments, within companies, within your systems. Every state has a state statute, including our territories, that requires consumer notification, and then some states also require regulatory notification when something called PII, so social security numbers, driver's license numbers, financial information, is accessed or acquired without authorization. The definition of PII is shifting. There's a new law in California that is coming online January 1st of this next year that is going to expand the definition of PII quite a bit, and I think we can expect to see, because we've already seen some proposed legislation, a variety of other states follow. One thing that I should flag is that if you have data in your system that pertains to Colorado residents, obviously you're concerned about Colorado law. However, if one of the people that you have information about has since moved to California, you're now worried about California law. And if they have since moved to Europe, we have to worry about European law. So the easiest way to avoid any of these regulations is not to have the sensitive data in the first place, or at least not to have it stored in a way that is accessible. So things like encryption and making sure that you're storing in the secure locations that these folks have identified for you. I know sometimes it slows you down, but I can't underline the importance of it enough. The state regulations are changing, so the notification timing is shrinking quite a bit. So it used to be that statute said you have to notify in the most expedient time possible if you have an incident impacting individuals' information. This highlights Washington at 45 days beyond the discovery of a breach, but Colorado is actually shorter, and that's 30 days. So the other thing that I would highlight is if you have any reason to believe that some sort of security event has happened in your environment, and again, they are sophisticated and they are fooling some of the most sophisticated people, so it isn't something to be embarrassed about, but these guys can't help unless you tell them that something has happened. So if you have a sense that something has happened, that could start the 30-day clock, so it's important to report up as quickly as you can. And I won't go through the rest of these details, except to say that there are also a number of federal regulations that apply here. So if you're sitting on health information, you may be subject to HIPAA. If you're sitting on education information, that's under FERPA. PCI DSS is a bunch of regulations that apply to the processing of credit cards. The long and short of this is that states and Europe, which is the GDPR, are increasing the amount of information that they regulate. They are shortening the notification timeframes. They are focusing on the rights of data subjects, so the rights of us to know what data is being collected, the rights of us to call and say, I need you to delete that data. And then the penalties are increasing quite a bit. So companies are facing multi-million, if not billion-dollar penalties in Europe. In California, as you can see, it's going to be $2,500 per violation, or $75 for intentional violation. So on top of the fact that you may have been victimized sort of in the first instance because all of your data is encrypted, if you don't respond appropriately, you may be victimized, so to speak, in the second instance because there are a lot of laws that impose penalties on organizations who don't respond appropriately in any event of a data security incident. With that, there are a couple of resources that we make available to you if you are interested. We have a 24/7, 365 response line. So if you or anybody that you know is impacted by a data security incident, call us. We want to be a resource. We want to get ahead of this stuff. We want to make sure that it doesn't continue to happen. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on the fly without starting that timer to build that time. I really do want to be a resource for you folks. We have a blog. We have interactive maps that will show you the laws in the various states. We have a handbook that I brought copies of. Didn't realize there were going to be this many people, so I can get more if that's interesting. And an app as well that walks you through all of the state laws. So with that, does anybody have any questions? Great. So I will turn it back over to Jill. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me, and I'll hang around for a little while in case there are any questions that need to be addressed. Yeah.
What's that website?
Oh, sorry about that. It's called Have I Been Pwned? It would be POWNED, but drop the O. So PWNED. If you type in your email address, it'll show you what breaches your email address has been associated with in the last number of years. If you haven't changed the passwords associated with that email address, or if that password is the same as anything else, your banking, your work, something like that, go ahead and change it.
Can you repeat that?
Yep, PWNED, Have I Been Pwned?
And on the Secure Jeffco website, there's actually a link to it. If you go to the home resources, there's a section in there that says, I think it's something along the lines of has I been breached or how do I identify resources, and in there is the link, Have I Been Pwned. So now we're going to have Mike Mercer with the FBI, Mark Jones with FBI.
I'm here for questions.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for having us out here and talking today about phishing issues with emails. Alyssa did a very good job explaining some of the threats that are out there and some of the information that's being gathered about you. What I tell my folks is never ever click on a link, period. Pick up that phone and call the person on the other end. That's the only way you're gonna know for sure. And even then, it's not 100% because if that same link went to your friend or your coworker and they clicked on it, they didn't know anything had happened, which they probably didn't, then you're gonna click on it. So just be very, very careful with that. Opening up attachments that you don't know who they're coming from, that's another rule of big vector that they're using. And back on the putting in your credentials. If you guys ever get an email and it's asking you for your credentials, never ever do that. Never. There's no reason to. If you're walking down the 16th Street Mall or something like that and somebody comes up to you and asks you for your social security number, you gonna give it to them? Absolutely not. So there's no reason to ever give up your passwords to anybody. Some of the other vectors that they're using as an attacker, like she said before, your social media. You guys put all the stuff that you're doing on social media, there's some things in there that I can use to create a phishing email, make you think it's real. Some of your resumes, you put your resumes online, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to go to Jeffco's website, and I'm going to scan through there and see if I can find anything that I can use to create an email for you guys. Also, maybe some of the things that's going on in Jefferson County. You know, create something, there's a big party going on or something like that, maybe I'll get that. Say, hey, you go to the party, click on the link, I got some photos, something like that. Someone's always going to click on it, so be very, very careful. See, as far as if you guys ever do get breached, Mark Jones is right over here. He's our special agent, assistant special agent, no, I'm sorry, assistant supervisory special agent of our cyber squad. There we go. And he'll be able to answer some questions for you after that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I had a presentation, but I didn't bring any cables with me, so I didn't know it was going to happen to do anything other than just talk. Does anybody have any questions right now? Or anything specific they want to talk about? Mark, would you like to say something real quick about investigations if they do get breached?
Sure. Afternoon, everyone. I am acting supervisory special agent Mark Jones from the Cyber Squad here at FBI Denver. Some of you guys might have met the supervisor, Chad Alvarado, who's now our acting ASAC. Thanks again for coming for this lunch meeting. I know you guys are getting inundated with a lot of information, and so I don't want to beat a dead horse and throw more at you. I just want to give you a quick overview of the lanes that the FBI and CBI work in, and then just give you a couple quick points of how you should go about when you guys have one of these cyber incidents. First off, the FBI works both criminal federal violations, both in the fraud sector and the computer intrusion sector, as well as the national security intelligence gathering. So with cyber, we're kind of unique. We see both sides of the house. We've got people working both the classified intelligence gathering, trying to protect national security, as well as trying to find the bad actors, get the evidence, and basically start those investigations for the criminal violations. There's two agencies that kind of run different lanes. FBI is chasing the bad guys. Department of Homeland Security helps you with cybersecurity planning and mitigation efforts if you have an incident. So if you have something such as ransomware, if we have to go to the national level, Homeland Security will help you guys figure out what just happened and get you guys back on track. The FBI comes in, tries to gather that evidence, figures out if we need to gather some intelligence gathering for a national security type situation, or gather more evidence for a criminal case. So that's kind of the two lanes that we go with. Obviously, the FBI and Homeland Security are looking at the federal level. CBI is working at the state level. And coincidentally, Sean O'Brien at CBI is the lone cyber guy, and he happens to sit on our squad. So we work together. So we got something that's going on with the state. They're taking a look at it. We're assisting. If it's more of a national or global perspective, then we're taking a look at it. The other thing to retain from this quick luncheon of lots of information, if you have any type of incident, no matter how benign or how serious, report it per your procedures and policies with your organization to IT and cybersecurity. That's got to be the first step, because then they start figuring out what needs to be done, collection of logs, gathering of some things, figuring out who it affected, all that. So by the time Homeland Security or FBI comes in, we got a good baseline of what's going on. So that's step one, just always report that. Step two, if you guys don't have that procedure, or in the case of IT and cybersecurity, the next step is you go to the website ic3.gov. It stands for Internet Crime Complaint Center.gov. That is our centralized triage center for financial fraud and cyber. And you can get to the FBI any way you need to. Call Sean, he calls me, email me, whatever. But the best way to do it is to file that complaint online with ic3.gov. Because then it's centralized, we report all the stuff, it gets spit out to the right officer that are working it. Because you guys don't know, I mean, though it happens to you here in Jefferson County, what you reported might be a bigger, significant, classified national security deal that's being reported around the globe, major attack. Those guys get it centralized, they know that New York's working the case, it's classified, we gotta keep the public out, and then move on from that. That's how that works. So that's one website you guys should always keep a hold of. I'm sure you guys know about it, so that's great. Other than that, I think that's enough to keep you guys going. I was just going to say, just for a reference point, from the time I got my coffee today around 6:30 to the time Sean and I drove up here, we left around 11, we had half a dozen incidences. We had a hospital in our region get ransomware. The whole hospital's locked down right now. We had a defense cleared contractor just get their sensitive classified information stolen. We had a university just get spearphish and are trying to take classified information. We had $250,000 of spearphishing scams just come through. And those are the ones that are just getting reported since, within a couple hours. And the last one, I think we had a local government office get attacked as well. So this stuff comes in nonstop. We try to prioritize and triage, obviously look at the big national security matters and those that affect a lot of money. But this happens to everybody daily. We get so much, we can barely keep up with it. But thanks for coming. I hope you guys were able to retain just a couple snippets of this information. And if ever we need to come back and do further deeper dives, we have plenty of presentations with the FBI and CBI to provide more information to you guys. Thanks.
Before you leave, I have one question.
Yes.
I'm a little confused. I think some of you touched on it. So obviously we get phished with these emails. Is it a problem to open the email if you stop there? Is the attack only if you click on the link or an attachment? At what point does it become a big problem? Can you clarify that for us?
Usually it's touching the link. Now, I've heard of stories, and Sean, maybe you've seen where you've heard of if you're moving your mouse, a gloss over might trigger an executable, but that gets very deep into some very sophisticated stuff. We haven't seen that too often, so at least at the classified level. Usually you have to click on the link, or usually you have to respond back, stuff like that. So if you see that, the best thing to do is not touch, not respond, report it immediately. We do the same thing in our organization because we get hacked all the time. I'm constantly getting hacked myself. So report it, then they'll tell you whether you guys, report it with an official complaint to IC3, or if it's affecting a bunch of you, your department here is going to report it to IC3. It gets up to the FBI and Homeland Security, and then we'll figure out what we can do.
So forwarding it to our IT people without opening anything or clicking on it, like that's fine.
If that's your policy,
Generally, that would be
So,
my
right now, what we want you to do is to save it and send it as an attachment through a ticket to customer service.
Excuse me, but
Sorry?
in our environment, I also need to be aware of it, so
Okay, so
I don't want them to just do that. I
save
need to
it.
be aware of it.
Okay, so let Douglas know and also save it as an attachment on a ticket, and then we can look at it to see if it is really,
the whole email as an attachment.
yes.
Probably one of two people who don't have to do that, I'm sure that's easy.
So the better, so there's good news coming. We're testing right now, we're piloting a program that will put a phishing button on your Outlook, and that should be up and running soon, as soon as we make sure that it works and as it's supposed to. So all you would have to do is be on the email and click phishing, and it will open a ticket. It will analyze the the email and it will let us know. So we haven't talked about that yet because we just started the pilot last week. Douglas is part of our Information Security Advisory Committee, and so that will be rolled out hopefully in the next month. Okay, they're looking at me going, don't promise. So until then, calling customer service, they can walk you through how to make
Again,
that
for this
attachment.
group, I'd rather them contact IT here. Let us manage it so that we're aware of the situation locally on the ground here.
Okay, so Douglas would like you to contact him. Are there any other questions? I didn't mean to grab the mic. I just want to make sure it was the... Any questions about what the FBI has said? You are doing a presentation for the entire county. Mike is coming back. It's about phishing, and it's for Cybersecurity Month. Cybersecurity Month is October, so we're planning some fun activities. We're also doing some things at the libraries, at the local libraries for the citizens, and we're doing things for the employees. So look forward to that. I want to thank you guys for coming in and talking to us. So Douglas, do you want to come up and talk about the cybersecurity training that you're rolling out?
Okay, I don't need this, I don't think. So, a lot of you are aware, you've been here long enough to remember when we used to do the SANS training. We kind of let that go by the wayside. Starting really probably next week, you're going to start getting those trainings again. You're going to get asked to do them. If you don't do them, we do get reports back of non-compliance. It's not a threat. It's just, we've also, since we haven't been doing them, we really need to catch up for this year's training. They're only supposed to take a couple of minutes, 5 minutes or so, but you're going to get quite a few of them, like maybe even one a week. Ideally, we need to catch up with a year's worth of training in the remaining months of this year. And moving into next year, the county is looking at maybe an alternative to SANS. So just be on the alert. Again, if you get something like that and you don't know, stick with what you know best. Reach out to me, and either me directly or DAIT, and ask if it's authentic, or just call us. But we need to get caught up on the training. We're also going to go back to the phishing training, although I'm going to start it out a little bit slowly, so it'll be a smaller cross-section. Usually what happens with those is they look like it's coming from Wells Fargo or a bank or an insurance company. And so far, I've been here, what, 22 months, something like that. No, 28 months. When those campaigns used to go out, I would get 30 emails. If we sent out 50 of them, I'd get 30 emails from you guys asking if they're legitimate. Keep doing that if you're not sure, because I'll respond very quickly. I try to respond one-on-one, but once I hit a certain number of emails, and I tend to do a mass email response or a mass email warning, I really try not to fill your inboxes with emails, so I'm asking you guys to take the time to read them, especially if there's uppercase in the subject line that says, please read, or something to that effect, okay? At any rate, so my promise to you guys is the things that you get, either from the county or from me, we will try to minimize them so that your box isn't flooded with emails. But in return, I'm asking you to read them, okay?
Trainings will come from you.
The SAN training links will come from me. The phishing links will come from what looks like a suspicious site. But if you click on the link, you're going to get a message that says you've just been phished, and then it'll send you to a training class, or a training video, which you will need to take. Okay? So, you know, when I got here, you guys were pretty darn good at suspecting emails and things like that, and so I might have gotten a little lazy when I got here because you guys were already doing a great job. But we need to get back in alignment with the county, and really, more importantly, we just need to make sure we're trying harder. Also, sometimes some of the things I send out will include personal warnings, because keep in mind, you have work contacts in your personal emails, and you have personal contacts in your work emails, which means you're theoretically exposing both sides of the house, okay? So be very, very careful. You know, we're not saying don't have shared contacts or personal ones. We're just saying that when you expose yourself on one side of the house, you're really exposing yourself on the other. And I'm going to give you one quick example. When I was at CDOT, has nothing to do with the big hack at CDOT. It happened about 6 months earlier. I got an email from an internal source that said, hey, can you look this thing over? Chris. The guy I worked with, his name was Christopher. Just like me, I don't go by Doug, I go by Douglas. He goes by Christopher. I replied to it saying, did you mean to send this to me? And he replied, yes, I did. Please open it. Wasn't him. So sometimes these people sending out these emails that are trying to phish you are monitoring them as well. And they're responding, which makes it seem even more realistic. Pick up the phone, okay? Any other questions?
Training has got to get done.
Training has to get done. So you're going to get hit with those, like I say, weekly. We need to catch up. And the county has asked us to catch up. I know that taking a 5-minute training each week is a lot because you guys do have so much on your plate. But if we get phished and we get shut down, or if we get ransomware and we get shut down, you're going to have a lot more time on your plate. You could be doing nothing. You're going to have no access to the data. They mentioned backups. We do back up our servers. We do a pretty good job. We also do a couple of backups of a couple of users here. But we don't back up every desktop. And so putting your important stuff out on your Q drive helps us guarantee we can back it up, okay? So be prepared for the training, be prepared to start getting these phishing things, and when in doubt, send me an email, call me, come see me. We're a small enough office that my office isn't far away. Yeah?
The Q drive is the one that has our name associated with it, right?
What's that?
The Q drive is the one that has
Yes,
our name. So
your
if
Q
stuff
drives
is
are all
saved on
unique
there,
to you.
that's
Yeah,
backed up.
yeah, they are backed up. So your Q drives are unique to you guys, okay? Any other questions? All right, we're in this together. Together we win, together we fail. So let me know what I can do to help you guys, all right? Thank you.